Thank you for joining us for Creative Spirit Gathering. This is our place for exploring in our art journals as a tool for self-healing, for personal growth, and for self-awareness. Our Unity theme for this year is how to stay centered no matter what. And when I saw that Unity put that out as their annual theme, I knew right away that that's what I wanted to explore this year in our art journal program, because I could use it personally. And they always say, right, teach what you need to know. I need to be reminded how to stay centered no matter what, especially following the year that we've just had. So to remember the powerful tools, those spiritual tools that we have within us at all times that can help us, when we remember them, to stay centered no matter what the world throws at us, no matter what even our own emotional system throws at us sometimes, right? How we respond to things. If we remember these spiritual gifts, that we can lean on them, take a couple breaths and breathe back into them, we can continue to move into that point of centeredness, of balance. Not to say that sometimes we won't get thrown off balance, right? We're all learning to regain that balance and learning to come back to center as often as we can. That's part of the spiritual journey. And we're going to have our human moments, we're going to have those experiences, but then to come back to center. So today we're going to be focusing on the power of faith. And in my journal, I'm demonstrating with water-soluble wax crayons. You are welcome to do this project with any sort of drawing supply, crayons, colored pencils, markers. If you have watercolor paints and you want to use those to get kind of the flow effect or blending, you're welcome to. And I also use a pencil just for writing in this. Again, that center point of just presencing with writing. So I want to share a story with you today. It's one of those storytelling kind of days. So sit back, get comfortable. Some of you may be familiar with this one. It's a personal story. A few years back, I came across a retreat. I saw the retreat advertised online that really caught my attention. And it was hosted by Edwin Gaines out at her retreat center. And I'd always wanted to go and do something with her. So I thought, yeah, I'll sign up for this one. Well, that particular one was filled. And so I looked then, because I was inspired. I was like, well, what else does she have? Well, the one that she had that was coming up that fit in my schedule was called Angels and Orbs. Now, it sounded a little bit intriguing and also a little bit intimidating, because to be honest with you, at the time, the word angels didn't resonate for me. And I know some of you resonate very strongly with angels in that moment, right? When I saw this thing advertised, I was like, angels, orbs, I'm not too sure. Sounds a little woo-woo, a little out there. But I really wanted to go and visit her retreat center and have this experience. So I signed up anyways, willing to be open, willing to see what would happen. And so I drove out to Alabama, woohoo, getting ready for this retreat. And the first day, of course, she asked, what are your thoughts on angels? And I very bravely stood up and said, well, not so sure about that word. This was me in that moment of, let's say, wavering faith around an idea, around a concept. Well, she said, that's okay. I hope that this experience this week is going to open you up. And we're here to hold, whatever happens for everyone here. We're just here to hold that experience. And so she guided us through a meditation. And in this meditation, we were to ask the angels to show us a sign, right? To give us some sort of sign so that we would know that they were there with us during this retreat experience. And so I was sitting in my meditation. And as soon as she said, they're going to show you a sign, in my mind's eye, I heard, saw, I just intuited the idea of blue shell. I want to remind you that I'm in Alabama at the moment, on side kind of a mountain, low mountain compared to some. I'm not near an ocean by any means. And so when the phrase, the idea blue shell came into my thoughts, I thought, well, that's kind of ridiculous. Dear inner wisdom, could you please give me something that's a little bit more reasonable? And, and I'm thinking, something like butterflies would be nice, right? So then when I see a butterfly, I'm going to think of angels. It'll be lovely. Well, of course, my inner wisdom said, if we gave you butterflies, it would not change your faith. If we gave you butterflies, you wouldn't believe. And so I thought, okay, fine. And so when we came out of the meditation, we were invited to journal about our experience. And so I journaled blue shell on there, thinking this is the most ridiculous thing ever. Well, you know where this is going, right, folks? You can sense it already. So the next morning, I decided to go for a walk around the property before the retreat started. And I walked out behind this little chapel, and at the base of a tree, there was an angel statue, maybe like a 2-foot tall angel statue. And at the base of her feet was a blue shell made out of glass. Now, in that moment, right, I was beside myself. Really, I was just like, really? A blue shell? And not just like, I saw something that maybe sort of looked like it was a blue shell. And it was at the feet of an angel. It was at the feet of an angel. So I took a picture and try to get as close as I can there. Can you see it right by the rock down here? There's this little blue shell. So I keep this photo now hanging above my desk. So anytime that I feel a lack of faith or a lack of connection to my inner wisdom, that sense of knowing, this reminds me to listen and to connect. Now, my goal is not to convince you today of the presence of angels in your lives. I believe for each of us, we have some way that we connect to, that we listen to, that which is larger than ourselves, right? That is bigger than our human experience. Whether you identify with the phrase, the universe is supporting me, with divine spirit, with God, with ascended masters, with Jesus, whatever that sense of a guiding spirit is in your life, I invite you to tap into that and deepen your faith connection with that. Because we're not just talking about an external, right? When we're talking about faith, it's not just faith in, say, angels or faith in some sort of external being, but it's that faith in ourselves, to trust and listen to that divine wisdom, to know that we are connected. And for all of us, that sense of connection, that sense of listening to divine wisdom can come in different ways. I invite you to use the chat just for a moment. How do you connect to spirit? Is it a sense of knowing? Do you see visions like in meditation or in dreams? Do you look for signs and symbols? Is it a physical sense? I know for myself, sometimes if I'm in like a class or a retreat and somebody says something and it's like, ooh, that resonates as spiritual truth for me, I get head to toe chills. And so it's like a body, a physical sensation. I'm seeing a sense of gratitude, to hear, to see. Yes, letting a song like answer a question, right? Be that sort of sign. Yes, art as connection. Thank you very much. We're in the right place for that. Physical sensations, knowing. A thought that comes from out of the blue, yeah, right? Especially, and I'm going to repeat this, especially the thoughts, the ideas that seem crazy. The ones that it's like, oh, that doesn't make any sense at all. a blue shell, right? Because those are the ones, it's not coming from our logical sense. I didn't think blue shell, divine wisdom gave me blue shell. And that's what divine wisdom is always trying to communicate with us, leading us back to our truth, back to our connection with this energy, this sense of divine love that is greater than our human experience alone. So we have so many ways of connecting and deepening our faith, deepening that connection. Again, not just an external, but an internal connection. And as somebody has pointed out in the group, that art can be a powerful way of connecting, of reminding ourselves. Just as I have, this photo of the angel with the shell that I keep up on my desk, I have lots of like little bits and bobs of art that I've created or that others have created for me, things that remind me of my spiritual connection. And those creative pieces help to center me when I'm feeling less than centered. And again, our goal this year is to stay centered no matter what. So we want to create experiences for ourselves to remember the truth of these powerful inner wisdom tools that we can tune into, tap into at any time. Now, I love the fact, if you go on Unity's website, it's unity.org, they have a whole section devoted to the 12 powers resources. It's the annual theme of the year, it's 12 powers. And there's a section there dedicated to each of the powers. And under the power of faith, they have a segment that is excerpted from Sharon Connor's book, Adventures in Resilience. Love that in itself. Adventures in Resilience. Ignite the 12 powers in you to create a radiant life. It's coming out in Unity Books. Well, it says 2020, so it might be out already. I haven't read it myself yet. But she describes these 12 powers as creative energies. Creative energies. And I hadn't heard it explained that way before, but of course, anything with the word creative in it resonates for me. And it really does. It really does resonate. She says, each of us has 12 creative powers that are fundamental to us. They're aspects, if I can speak, of the nature of the divine. Understanding the true potential of these creative energies and how to engage their power leads to living a richly blessed life. And I've, worked with these powers, intentionally, consciously at certain times in my life. And every time I do, I've just uncovered, right, these hidden gems within me that I could lean into. And I hope you find the same experience as we move through these processes together. So for today's theme of faith, what I invite you to do, and many of you shared in the chat, different ways that you feel connected to nature, that you feel that sense of connectivity. And what I'm going to invite you to do is remember a time where you felt that sense of connection. I love the word synchronicity, right? I don't like the word coincidence anymore. I used to think, oh, what a coincidence. And now my understanding is coincidence feels like happenstance. It just happened to work that way, right? There just happened to be a blue shell at the foot of the angel. Doesn't mean anything. Synchronicity sort of invites us into this sense of connection, that we are connected as part of a greater thread. And so when these coincidences show up, it's really a greater sense of leaning into our union with all that is. A synchronicity, right? The right and perfect song at that moment that you needed it to hear it. The right and perfect image. And so in your journal today, I'm inviting you to recall a moment where something sort of triggered in you, a sense of knowing or a synchronicity that happened. If nothing's coming to your mind today as you're moving through this, I invite you to simply just start writing and ask for a sign. Ask for some sort of sign to remind you of your divine wisdom and this divine connectivity. So I shared here that what I used were water-soluble, they're actually water-soluble wax pastels. So it's like a crayon, and you can sort of scribble and draw with it, and then you can touch it with a brush and it starts to flow and blend like a watercolor. The main idea that I'm wanting you to do is just explore with simple art materials, something that just feels like fun for you. Again, as we're leaning into this, it's just about capturing that moment, whether it's an image or maybe it's just a spiral or color, something that represents that experience for you. And also leaning into using text, right? Using writing to remember, recall the experience, or to invite the opportunity for synchronicity to show forward. So you can see here, these are the water-soluble wax pastels. Again, you could use crayon, but I wanted you to see how simple this started out, right? A quick pencil sketch, some writing, and then really just kind of scribbling in with these crayons, adding more color. And now you can see here, I'm adding the water. So on the left side of the screen is where I've already added the water, and the right side, you can see where those spaces are still open. Again, this is not about you have to have this material today. I'm just wanting to introduce you to a new technique, new material that you could play around with sometime in the future if you ever happen to stumble upon these. And then I went in and did the blue after I let the yellow dry so that I didn't end up with a green shell, because that blue color was so important to my story. And here's the finished page. So again, simple, right? It's not about fancy drawing skills or, getting the perspective just right. It's about leaning into our own emotion, our own experience, and then processing that on the page and letting that come forward. So I'm going to go ahead and lead us into a short meditation. We'll take this time to center ourselves, and then we'll move into our creative practice right off of the meditation. So we're taking this energy with us, this divine heart-centered energy, into the creative process. So wherever you are, I invite you to become comfortable in your seat, in your bed, stand, right? Power pose, a meditation, whatever feels right to you. Maybe roll those shoulders, roll your neck. Make sure the needs of the body are met. And then take a couple of deep breaths here. Nice cleansing breaths. Breathing in through the nose and exhaling through the mouth if it feels comfortable. We allow the breath to be a guide that takes us deeper within our own being. We allow the breath to cleanse any thoughts of what has been, thoughts of earlier in the day, whatever happened to get us to this moment. We just gently cleanse them with the breath. If we have any thoughts or anxieties about things to do later, we simply let them wipe away with the breath. Cleansing and centering. We let the breath bring us to this now moment. And we rest here in this moment for a moment of silence. And in this space of silence, I invite you to ask divine wisdom to make clear to you now a memory of connection, a memory of guidance, where divine wisdom was present in your life. We give thanks for these memories. We give thanks for the opportunities to come, to know divine wisdom in our lives, and to lean ever deeper into our power of faith. On the next breath, I invite you to flutter your eyes open, bringing you back to this moment, to this room, and to your art supplies before you. I invite you now to create from this space your journal reflection.